at this point. Dr. Manibama, I'll start with you and then we will run along the table.
Should we do anything differently? It's a yes and no. In terms of the things that we have gotten right, we should continue doing those same ones. In terms of the expectations that we have spoken about here, at least programs like this will help draw unrealistic expectations closer to realistic expectations. But like I said, if we are talking about jobs, employment, the support services will be key, and that will absorb over 80% of these expectations that we are looking at. From the Ministry of Environment point of view, we are assuring you that the studies in terms of the baseline, if you went into the sea, let's say 1,000 meters, what is the chemical composition there as of now, so that if tomorrow, God forbid, we have the Gulf of Mexico kind of situation on our hand, how can we compare the two and say that as a result of this kind of spillage, this is the damage? That work has gone on since 2009. This year too, we have repeated it. We are completing it next year. What can we do to send a strong signal to the companies that government will not tolerate spillage and discharge of whether drilling mud or the crude oil itself? It is what the Ministry of Environment, the EPA, and even the Ghana Maritime Authority are doing currently. As I'm speaking to you now, there's a committee that the Ghana Maritime Authority is even on it that is looking at one such discharge of drilling mud. And what we are saying is we are not going to be lenient at this embryonic stage, because the posturing of government, the posturing of regulatory authorities will send a signal to these companies in terms of our tolerance level when it comes to environmental infractions. That is not going to be tolerated at all, and we will act in a very severe manner just to deter people from doing what is wrong, so that they will opt for doing what is right. In terms of how to link this hydrocarbon potential to other developmental programs, like the bauxite that I spoke about, the natural gas being converted to fertilizer to serve the agricultural industry, like the fruits and the vegetables that Honorable mentioned. These are also being pursued. And last but not the least, the crude oil is not just going to be drilled in the western region. We have huge potential also in the Volta region. And in anticipation of that, even under the Eco Brigade program, we realized that we have recruited people all the way from Aflao to Elugu, said that by the time that we get to that area too, they would have built enough capacity in serving as early warning people in picking signals and helping in our coastal restoration programs.
Thank you, Kojo. I think that because we have a competitive advantage in some areas, what we should do is to look out for them and get them working immediately. One of the things that we know we can do and do well is in the service area. One gentleman was talking about buildings and infrastructure in the places closest to where the oil is being done. I know Takoradi and Sekondi, we have everything already there. But why deprive the people who are closest, and why not begin to build some of these services there? They don't have to be skyscrapers. We can provide some services. Infrastructure is also very important. Western region roads are bad. And the constant promise that we would use some of this revenue to improve the infrastructure, the roads, the bridges, the schools, the hospitals, all these are very important. Sometimes people are not looking for you to put money in their hands, but to create the conditions which will enable them to have the dignity of making ends meet themselves. So infrastructure is also very, and it has to be deliberately planned. Thirdly, I still maintain that there are things we can do now to give people jobs. A lady talked about, raising people's level of knowledge so they can do little things. We should think more of that for now, rather than waiting until we can do the very big things. So it's very important that we recognize that between now and when the first barrel comes out, people need to live. We must also recognize that compensation is still essential and begin to work on how compensation will, and also we must remember that we need to give royalty. That is also essential because royalties will need to be given to the people in the communities and to help them to use the royalties well. Thank you.
Asaga.
Yes, thank you. First of all, I would like to say that Lawyer Bediatu's philosophy shouldn't just be wished away, because he's stating a constitutional provision about mineral rights and who it belongs to, and it belongs to the people of Ghana. So my humble appeal is that we should see the oil discovery as belonging to Ghana, and not for people to say it belongs to us as Western region. If we go on that lane, then people in Ashanti region previously, could they be saying that the gold belongs to Ashanti region, and etc., etc.? Because gold revenue has also kept, and timber and cocoa has kept this country's economy moving, and we all claimed it and we're happy with it. So I would also want to appeal to Western region and to the future bases that are going to be discovering oil, that they should see it as a national asset. But like Madam said, there should be a local targeting for those who are immediately affected by the discovery of those resources. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to emphasize two things. The legal framework. There are some bills before Parliament or about to come before Parliament. And I would like to appeal to our parliamentarians to try to put Ghana first in debating and approving some of these bills. You can look at some of the past laws with regards to mining, with regards to the tax concessions, with regards to the powers of a minister to grant exemption from a tax because it is in the national interest. One minister having the power to grant tax exemption because it is in the national interest to grant such exemptions. We can look at a stabilization agreement, I think with Anglo Gold, for the next 50 years. There are certain concessions granted that we cannot change them. So our parliament needs to go back to those things and put Ghana first. Secondly, it is not enough to just have laws. Ghana has a lot of beautiful laws. The issue is on enforcement. Either we are not enforcing them or we are enforcing them half-heartedly. Let me just give an example. We are pulling down houses in the waterways, but we have not heard of one government official being brought before court and prosecuted because he or she has granted a permit for a house to be built in a waterway. What are we doing? Some of these people have documents allowing them to build in those waterways. Why are we not also holding those people that were involved in the grant of the permits? So we need not only to have the laws, to enforce them, and to enforce them in a very committed way. And one last point, the control over the community, the oil companies. We need to have control. The legal framework has to put in place measures to also control them. Let's just look at the way sometimes some of these mining companies use their security agents, security personnel to harass people who dare to demonstrate or to make noise against some of their actions. Why don't we use the national security agency to handle these issues, and we allow the companies to use their own security agency to control the people? So we need to also ensure that we control this company. Yes, we need their investment, but Ghana must be first for their investment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't expect to address all of the issues.